Hello my goddesses, my name is Sherry Kumar of thegoddessprinciples.net, and my last video for today is about solo travel or traveling alone. Again, it's something that I talk about a lot in my seminars, the importance of traveling alone, as I view it as a great lesson in personal development, but also it's a very spiritual experience. And as you know, I teach a lot about meditation, how to discover yourself or your inner goddess through meditation, but also using other tools. And international travel is definitely one of them, but the most empowering way to travel is really alone. And I think, a lot of us have traveled alone for business or are comfortable traveling alone when there is a purpose or something to accomplish or someone to meet at the other end. A lot of my workshop clients are not entirely comfortable just packing their bags and going away to Paris for the weekend. And that's certainly becoming much more popular among the younger goddesses. I think the recent college graduates, the 20-somethings, the early 30-somethings are discovering themselves through solo travel. But a lot of my older goddesses who are either recently leaving a marriage or recently become single find this task very, very daunting. To a lot of people, traveling alone seems like a very lonely thing to do. Some even call it pathetic. And they're just not comfortable going out there. The thought of having to wake up alone, have breakfast, lunch, and dinner all by yourself. Most that are not even comfortable sitting in a restaurant by themselves, let alone take an entire vacation on their own. And so I'm often met with a lot of resistance when I suggest that the first thing you should do after a breakup is really to clean your energy, rebalance yourself, and there's nothing more invigorating like a trip. And some of you know that I host retreats, international retreats for my goddesses, but those are mostly group trips, and they are very empowering and they're a lot of fun, and you definitely come back with a new perspective on life. However, I often push women to at least try traveling alone. It really isn't as bad as you might think, but also the process is actually a very spiritual experience. I don't know if you girls know, but the reason it's a spiritual experience is a lot of Hindu and Buddhist monks, when they decide to embark on their path, shave their head, put on a robe, discard all their personal belongings, and they set off on a journey. The journey is solo, completely alone, and they keep walking until they find themselves. And that's exactly what I mean when I talk about discovering the goddess within. You get on your path, whether it's a meditation path, a personal growth path, but a very, very easy thing to do if you don't meditate is to start your journey. I started this in baby steps for myself. One of the first things that I wanted to do was, I was married for 12 years with the same person for 15, and when you become a couple, you start to rely on each other, depend on each other. There's a codependency there, even in the healthiest relationships. But also, I've been traveling all my life and perfectly comfortable traveling alone, yet I found that after that ending of that relationships, somehow the idea of spending a week in a foreign country by myself just didn't feel comfortable. I could do it for business, I could do it when I'm hosting a trip for the Goddess Principles, I could do it for a lot of different occasions, but just sitting by myself, whether it's on the beach for a week or in a city like Paris for a week, it just felt very uncomfortable, and I didn't like that. I'm one of those people who always needs to straighten out the things that are not feeling too good in my life, and I knew that this is going to be a challenge, so I started off with little baby steps. I started off by dating myself, simply to get comfortable in my own skin, taking maybe a half-day trip at first to the beach and being there all alone. The trick to doing this is you cannot take other people with you. It is very tempting to, but those people will just be your crutch. And one of the things that you'll notice is the more comfortable you become doing this all by yourself, the more demanding your girlfriends are going to be to take them with you. And that's because once you find that power in your alone time, once you start to bliss in your alone time, actually you become extremely attractive to both men and women. And suddenly everybody wants to know what you're doing, why are you enjoying yourself so much. And even when you're blissing in your own solitude, which is something that I'm a big fan of, everybody wants a part of your solitude. And of course, then it's not solitude anymore. So whatever you do, resist the temptation of bringing other people with you. It doesn't matter if they're your friends, family, or your children. Leave them behind. For this purpose, it's really important that you learn how to be by yourself, but more importantly, that you learn how to bliss in solitude. Many of my clients give me a lot of resistance saying, well, I've been single all my life. I don't need solitude. I'm looking for the opposite of solitude. Well, my answer to that is no. You may have been single all your life, but you haven't found bliss in that place. And that's a very important distinction, because when you find your bliss in solitude or in those moments that you have to yourself, and when you grow that bliss into an ecstatic experience, that's exactly when you reach that goddess within. It's not going to happen overnight, but the longer you can do this by yourself, you'll find yourself much more centered, much more aligned. You're going energetically and with your thoughts within. You become much more self-analytical. You become much more self-exploratory. You become much more self-aware. And from that process, you get in touch with that inner you, which I like to call the goddess. And this cannot happen with other people around you. I can teach you what to do, I can tell you and guide you through the process, but having me by your side is definitely not going to empower you. So please resist the temptation of taking other people with you. Again, start off in very short, small trips. Start off with a weekend. Treat yourself to a spa, a bed and breakfast. One of the things that you'll notice when you start to travel by yourself, you're automatically a people magnet. And you become a magnet for other people who are traveling by themselves too. You cannot attract other people when you're traveling in a group or with your girlfriends, because suddenly, for a lot of people, that's much more difficult. It's much more difficult to approach one person when they're standing in the middle of a group. But when you're sitting there by yourself, whether it's on an airplane, in a cafe, or just in a park, well, immediately somebody else who's there by themselves will come over and talk to you. And this happens to me all the time. When I travel alone, I'm meeting people all day long. And the greatest thing that happened is that, I learned how to speak with or make conversations with random people, which is something that I couldn't really do before. But now, because I'm so used to entering a room by myself and experiencing things like sitting in a cafe or a restaurant for hours and actually relishing it, I've learned that this is actually, it's not pathetic, it's not lonely, it's actually a beautiful experience. It helps you appreciate yourself, appreciate your time alone, your hobbies, your thoughts, you're alone with your thoughts, and that's all a part of the experience. So I find that, whenever I come back from a trip alone, I'm always coming back with lots of new contacts. I've always met a lot of people. If you plan the type of trip that really focuses on your interests, for example, I love art, I love museums, you're guaranteed to meet somebody with the same interests. They don't have to be the love of your life. They don't even have to be a man. You could be a new friend. But you have just made a new connection, and that's abroad, and that's a very powerful experience. So the main reason I always encourage everybody, and if you ever join one of my workshops, I will push you, twist your arm into trying this. But really the main purpose of this is to embark on your path. And of course the path doesn't reveal itself right away. But a lot of people who try traveling solo come back exhilarated after their first trip. They didn't think they could do it. But what's really amazing is how much they actually like getting in touch with themselves. When you have no distractions the way you would at home, it's much easier to get focused on yourself in another country, on a foreign beach, in a foreign city. So it's a very, very exhilarating experience. You will come back wanting more, and it becomes, a lifelong practice of treating yourself really well, taking yourself to exotic destinations. Really, and it also allows you to conquer your fears. Despite the fact that I grew up traveling, and for me, travel is almost a no-brainer. The fact that I've traveled by myself to countries that are off the beaten track, I've played in jungles by myself with animals. I'm not telling you girls to do that, but I've done a lot of things that are considered unsafe for women. They turned out to be perfectly safe. Or things that are a bit more daring and adventurous. I've done them by myself and came out of it thinking, wow, I can do this. I can swim with sharks. I can pet a lion. I can pet a tiger. I can, jump out of a plane all by myself. I don't need somebody to go with me and hold my hand through the process. And that in itself is a huge experience. You come back knowing you can do anything. And that really is the purpose of traveling solo. Regarding my trips, I host quarterly trips for the Goddess Principles. It's a group of women who have already graduated or are already familiar with my work. And they really are, there's no training in the trips, but there's a lot of good conversation. There's a lot of encouragement. There's a lot of friendships being made, but the purpose of the trip is really to relax, to explore, to have a great time, and really to just reinvigorate. So if you're interested, go to my website, www.thegoddessprinciples.net. Usually the trips are listed on the home page. If you have any questions for me, feel free to email me. I answer all questions personally. Just fill out the contact form on my website, and I'd love to hear from you. Talk to you tomorrow. Bye.